basically, they just want us to talk about our experience, because I don't know about you guys, did you live in Totem last year? Did you live on West? No. I was in Totem last year. It's so weird to come back here. Feels good. Yeah, you guys want to?
I was in Totem just for jump start, but I lived in Vanier, but Totem I stayed here quite a bit.
I've actually never stayed in first year housing. I stayed off campus my first year, on campus for my second and third year at Fairview Residences, and then off campus again for my fourth year. So I have a unique experience. I've experienced looking for housing without being in Canada for both the times that I found housing off campus. So if you have any questions about that, if you're going to be away for the summer and you have no idea how to start searching, I might be able to answer some of those questions. I've also lived in 2 separate neighborhoods. I don't know if you have the handout with the maps. So I've lived on Kerrisdale, the Kerrisdale area along 41st. And now I live near the King Edward area. It's not really on the map, but I can give you some ideas about that as well. So I don't know if you guys have any questions to kickstart what you want us to talk about. Like, what are some of your main concerns? Do you want to go ahead and do that?
Well, first, like, before even like thinking about where you're gonna live, there's a few things that you have to think about. First is who you're gonna live with. On campus, there's a lot of places where you can live alone, where you have a room, like in Fairview and Marine, where you have a room in like a condo with like other rooms. But if you're looking for a house or an apartment, you have to decide how many people you want to live with, and really the first thing is deciding who you want to live with, because it's really not as simple, and that can make a huge difference in your housing experience in university. You can choose to live with friends, which is what I did, but that's, I think, really tricky, because you have to be able to trust that you're going to be able to communicate with these friends, you're going to be able to respect each other, and some of the best friends have lived together and ruined their friendships because they weren't necessarily able to live together. It's a completely different story, and if you decide to live with people you don't know, that can also work, even though it can like sound scary. Since you start from scratch, you have like no expectations, so that can actually work. So you gotta think about that. Did you guys live with people you didn't know before?
Currently I'm living with people I don't know, but the year before I lived with someone I did know. I'll be very honest, both experiences have had their ups and downs, and in this current experience more downs than ups, but then there are ways in which you can turn it upside down, so like have positive experiences. So should we go on about it? Okay. So what Astrid said right now about making sure that you choose your right friends, it's really important to do so, and when you do so, I stayed in the village, and I had like 1 year lease. And so when signing leases, be very careful in the sense that make sure you read through everything, make sure that everything that is stated in the lease is actually provided to you in the best of conditions. So an example was that I've never lived in Canada, like I'm from Kenya, and so the weather is very different, and so I didn't realize things like moss growing on the ceiling. Like I thought it was just paint chipping off and stuff. So after I was moving out, after the 1 year, these other 2 guys came to stay in that apartment, and their mother came, and they're Canadians, and so she's like, oh, there's like this growing over here and this growing, and the landlord didn't tell us about that, or my friend and I were both Kenyans, we had no idea that this stuff was going on. So make sure you do a thorough check of the apartment, and when signing leases, make sure that you have a copy, your roommate, your friends, or like everybody has a copy, and make sure that your landlord will obviously have a copy as well. So it's important to keep copies, hard and soft if you can. And if you have a 1 year lease, if you're going to go home, if you're going to go back home for the summer, make sure that you find someone to sublet make sure you find someone to sublet, because what I did was that I left my friend to find someone to sublet it, and she went crazy with the place. Like she had many parties and this and that going on. So the house was left in such a bad state that nobody was able to come and stay in my place. So yeah, so be careful that, make sure that you find someone because it's your responsibility. If you don't, you're the one that's going to lose out. So I learned the hard way. But speaking about my second experience, currently right now I live in Marine Drive and I live with strangers. But it can be tricky when it comes to living with strangers. You just need to make sure that you know your boundaries, and you need to make sure that they know theirs. And if you find them crossing their boundaries, you always have support systems like RAs, and you have friends and stuff, you can talk it out. But if you ever have a dispute with them, you have RAs to help you out. So.
Not off campus. You're not gonna
Yeah, off campus.
It's communication.
I think it's important that when you're talking about who you want to live with, maybe have a first meeting where you sit down and talk about your living habits. What time do you like waking up? What time do you need quiet hours? What time do you like big parties in your house? Do you want to have regular family dinners? My roommates and I, we love having family dinners. So I know I wanted to live with people where I can cook together with and go to their rooms and talk if I wanted to. Whereas I have a friend who needs her own space, so she lives with a complete stranger. So they have rules about how they share the living room and the kitchen, but they don't interact because she's not there to make friends. She just wants a comfortable space to live in. So it's really up to your preference and what you want. So I think it's important maybe to put down a list of things you find very important in your living environment. Do you need a lot of people in your house? I know some people like massive houses with like 8 people. Some people want their own unit. Some people are comfortable with more. So make a list of the things you want and a list of your living habits. Think about what kind of living environment you want to be, and then start talking to people about it.
And once you know what you want, even when you do find friends, I live with 4 other girls, so we're 5 girls in like a small house. We were we weren't sure if it was gonna work out, and when one of my friends suggested that we live together, we actually decided to sit down. We had dinner together, but we sat down and we wrote down rules. And as stupid as that may sound, this has made my experience. I love living in my house, and I'm having so much fun. But if you don't take the time to set those ground rules, it can be very, very tricky. Second is the location. Deciding where you want to live. Your first thing will be, close to campus, close to classes. And yes, definitely, if you find a place that is far from classes, it can be ridiculously hard to come to campus, especially that UBC is so far away from everything. But it can also have its ups, because if you're close to downtown, there's so many things to see in Vancouver, and you can get to downtown way more easily. And then think about if your house is close to buses, if the buses run at night. Seriously, those are things that make the difference in whether you have a good living experience or not. Because if the buses that go to your house stop at 9 p.m. and you're out for dinner or you can't go back home, you have to cab it, it's really not worth it. And then close to groceries, grocery shopping, you guys probably don't know about this yet, but it is a pain.
It's really fun for me.
It is?
I really enjoy it.
Do you have a car? Oh, I use my suitcase. Yeah, I bring my suitcase, seriously though. And then location-wise, a huge thing is neighbors. Look at the environment you're going to be living in, and once again, it's your choice whether you want to be in a quiet place. And if you're living with other people, it's your choice, but you have to consider what they want too. Obviously, it's a house that's like for everyone, right? Everyone's paying the same rent. But one of a group of friends of mine had problems because of noise levels. They just invited a few friends to have drinks at their house, and at 10 p.m. the landlord called to say that you can't, you have to be quiet, and that is really, really annoying if that's not what you want. If you actually want to be able to have people over, make sure that's got to be possible with your neighbors and your environment. Yeah. And then the rent, you gotta think about how much you're willing to pay, because you can get really pretty houses, but you're gonna pay a lot, and it's also gonna depend on the location of the house. And yeah, consider extra costs, as in whether you get it furnished or not, because really like getting couches and like shelves and desks and can add up to like so much in the end. So when you're looking at places, just consider that too.
Can I just add on to that? I think it's interesting. Some people really like furnishing their houses and they like IKEA shopping, so they would prefer an empty house. And sometimes the furnished houses don't look very good.
Yeah.
You'll have thrift furniture that's already in the place, and you may not want that. For my room, it was supposed to be furnished, but I chose to add extra bits to it anyway. So in the end, I probably would have preferred it unfurnished. So I think it's worth considering, you know, what you want in the space. And when they say furnished, it can mean a table.
Partly furnished, you know.
So it's not completely accurate. So always email when you see a posting, and be very, very careful with these postings. There can be fake postings on Craigslist and things like that, so be careful with that. Make sure that you're meeting the landlord and you're talking to them. Having a relationship with them is very, very important, I think, because they can make your stay awesome, or they can make your life a miserable thing to do. But it's good to discuss every single bit that they claim on that posting. So if it says furnished, ask them, what does it mean that it's furnished? Do you have a bed? And with beds, you have to be careful. Check on the bed bug list
Mattresses.
Website. We had a bed bug problem in our first year. That was not fun. It takes multiple fumigations, and the landlords get really, really annoyed with you. So check those listings. Make sure that you're choosing the right place, and that you're asking as many questions as you can. Like it's a tedious process, I will say. That's not the fun part, but after that, it's really, really worth it to check that out. Yeah.
And also just on that same note, if I can add, so a den is not necessarily another room. A den is really small. So sometimes people would advertise places, 3 rooms or 2 rooms, or like 1 room and a den, and the den can be converted into a room. A den is really small, but sometimes they can be big enough to be converted into a room. So if you're looking at it, dens are not bad, but they're tricky. Make sure you go visit them and see and visualize if you can actually use that as a room with respect to how much space it has. So, yeah.
Also with transportation, an interesting thing that's come up is the buses are getting really, really full in the mornings and during peak hours, because TransLink is having issues with the capacity that they have. And I think it's worth considering whether or not you want to live so close to campus that 5 buses will pass you by in the morning, which means you're probably going to have to wake up earlier anyway to catch an earlier bus that isn't as full as a bus that's going to come later, where everyone has come on the line at the SkyTrain station, and so the buses are completely full, and they're just going to go past you if you're.
And that actually happens.
It happens a lot this year,
lot.
so it's something to consider. I know some people don't mind it, and you play your chances. Sometimes you get on the bus, sometimes you don't. I live 20 minutes away. It's a little bit of extra prep time, but I definitely get on the bus. I have no problems with that. And all in all, I plan for an hour to get to campus, but that's with me slow walking and taking my time and making sure that I get on a late bus if I miss my bus. Yeah.
I think another thing to also remember is laundry. If you're looking for housing off campus, if you can, try and make sure that you can get laundry and a dryer accommodated inside the house, so you can have like a laundry closet or whatever. Because the house that I lived in, I didn't realize it, laundry was actually in the basement, and it was $2 for a wash and $2 for a dry. So if you guys think it's expensive here, it just gets worse. But if you play your cards right, you can get it within the house as well. So that's a huge thing. And these $4 keep on accumulating because, you guys know about laundry. So yeah.
So where to start once that you know what you kind of want is Craigslist. For me, I'd say Craigslist and AMS Rentside. Do you guys know Craigslist? Yeah. Well,
There's a list. They have a list on.
oh, okay. Yeah, and with Craigslist, really, first thing is start early, start now. If you want to get lucky and find something good, start now because there are really good deals. Be patient, keep looking until you find something. Eventually you will probably, I guess, I hope. Save phone numbers, call call people, call the landlords, go visit the houses, get out of your way. It's a tedious process, but if you want to find something good, you have to go visit the places, because on pictures it's really not the same as when you go look at the house. Be flexible. Don't once you've made your list about what you want and who you want to live with, and you have to be flexible, because you won't first thing find whatever you're looking for exactly. And then stay organized, because you're gonna go once. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I open Craigslist and I put my whatever I'm looking for, and you just open, you end up with 20 tabs open, so save numbers and stay organized, bookmark and keep notes so that you can call back, and then sometimes they're not available, but then they become available again, so call again and stuff like that. I found a house on campus behind the village. It's a townhouse. Consider that there are a lot of houses on campus, a lot of houses around that aren't advertised also. So walk around with, and if you can, bring your resumes. If you have good resumes, bring your resumes, because they help. For my landlord that we're with, he was like, oh, you guys are serious students, and it helped. So walk around with your resume if you can, bring your friends along, make it a day thing, and just look at the places that say, for rent, or go to Westbrook Mall too. They have cool places, a bit expensive sometimes, but it's pretty. And once again, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something expensive, or yeah.
I would say if you're looking for a place off campus, a lot of the time the landlord will ask for references, so that they want to make sure that you've lived somewhere before and you didn't trash the place, or that if you're a student, you're actually a student. So getting those ready was very, very important. So when my roommates and I started looking for places, we had all our documents ready. We had all our date of birth and everything written down, so that if anyone asked for specific information that was legal, make sure that they're asking for legal information. They're not allowed to ask you certain things, like bank account information and stuff like that. You're not supposed to give that to them. There's actually a really good booklet that I think UBC Housing prepares. I'm not completely sure. I picked it up at Brock Hall, but it has all the resources in terms of legalities, what they're allowed to ask you, what you should be giving them, what you should be looking for in a lease, and I think that's very, very important. It's pretty thick, but it's really, really important to read through. But we had our references ready. You can call UBC Housing. They can be a reference for you since you lived in res. So all those things you can do in advance, and you don't want to be doing that if you're going to be away for the summer. So start thinking about that now. When you have all that ready and you find a place that you want, they go really fast. They're really nice places. If they have more people applying, they can be picky. They can be like, I want 4 girls living in my house versus 4 boys, maybe. So the sooner you get your application in, the better of an impression you make, the more likely you're going to get the house you want. Because we applied for a few houses, we didn't get them because we were a bit slower. So it's important to get all that information sorted. If you know that you're going to look for a place now, like she said, start browsing. Also, look at the market, see what prices look like online. Sometimes a small unit may advertise for $1,000, and you should know that that's not what you should be paying for. A smaller unit further away, 1 hour away, could be about $500. If you're closer to campus, $1,000 per room. Looking and browsing will give you an idea of what the prices should be like, and I think doing that preliminary research is really important. Yes. But it's very hard to find a place for September until about August, because if you're off campus.
That's the thing though. What we did is, we started in January, and we found a place in April, I think, and the lease started in May. We took the house, and it was a pain to find subletters. Craigslist helped and Facebook helped, and we found subletters for the summer. And all of our stuff, when we had to move out of Totem, housing, res, we just put all of our stuff in our new house, and now new house. And we came back from summer, and it was ready. Don't expect to go on summer and look for a place during summer and be all okay and without troubles when you come back.
I did that both times. It's doable.
Yeah.
I think it really depends.